Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I mean, you and I both noticed how it wasn't because of the prince's actions, really. There was no slaying of dragons. It was more like the 100 years had just ended, and so he could go. And there was no punishing of the old wise woman.
Mm,
And yeah, so in a way, there's no justice in this story. It's just like the king really, really angered the old wise woman, and she had issued, like the gods of old, issued a proclamation of death. But then, the 12th wise woman, maybe some representation of Christianity or something there, the disciples or something like that,
mm,
had mollified that. But still, the mollified sentence was carried out
mm,
to the T, and in the end, everyone lived happily ever after. But they
mm,
lived in suspended animation for
mm,
100 years.
mm,
But yeah, you and I are talking. The old tower maybe represents like, so the castle could represent, and often does represents, a place. I should say a palace represents a place where all someone's needs are met.
mm,
And they were her parents were a modern version, or an ancient and a medieval version of bulldozer parents, where they get rid of all the spindles. There's
mm,
obviously, just like in many stories where there's a prophecy, a bad prophecy, like people do everything they can to prevent it from happening, but then of course it ends up happening in
mm,
some way they had not foreseen. And this one seems like it ends up being fulfilled by an agent that was seemingly was the wise woman that had issued issued the death
mm,
sentence. When when Briar Rose goes up into the tower, uh, there's some interesting details there. It's a winding staircase. There is a rusty key already in the
mm,
lock. The door springs open. It's like it was all supposed to happen.
mm,
The rusty key I found interesting. You almost wonder if like that tower was there the whole time.
mm,
That tower and that room with the old woman in it, it's
mm,
almost as if it was waiting there her whole life. And then finally, when her parents are gone, her parents, who are very protective of her, when they're gone that one day, on the day of her maturation, may maybe it's an old day of majority back then, 15 years old, in the Spanish cultures in America, that's when you become a woman, that's your bat mitzvah.
mm.
But yeah, yeah, it's almost like it's an eerie kind of detail. It was waiting
Yeah,
to happen that whole time.
yeah, and that old woman doesn't seem questioning or bothered by Briar Rose just showing up. And
Well,
that's kind of
obviously, I
like,
mean,
yeah, it's probably the,
she's waiting for her.
yeah.
That's the
Mm.
reason she's in that room.